I was a good woman to the wrong men for years. I never realized just how unworthy of me they were because I was so focused on keeping them pleased simply because they chose me. I thought they were worth more than they really were, all because they wanted me. That was nothing but my fear of abandonment and fear of rejection getting the best of me, convincing me to chase what wasn't for me and cling to what was hurting me. That is a piece I wrote that is currently just on my Instagram page. I've been that girl too. If you're wanting more of my writings, you can check out my books. But now let's get into why I wrote that and let's talk a little bit more about it in depth. I think a lot of us women have this problem at one point in our dating life. And it's because we're trying to stick to the good girl trope and we just don't know much about dating at all. And most times in our upbringing, our parents don't really teach us about dating. They just kind of tell us don't mess with boys, don't get pregnant. And they turn around in the same breath and say that, basically you need to have a man, you need to get married. I remember my mom saying things to me and my sisters like, how we would have to learn to cook and clean because no man would want us if we didn't know how to do those things. And so it's like it plays with your mind because it's like on one end what they're teaching you is very misogynistic, and on the other end they're basically not teaching you a thing. So imagine you take those two things and you go out into the world as an adult with these quote unquote lessons, and then you're trying to find romantic love and partnership with a man. And then you end up just going for the first man that chooses you. And you don't think to look at like your standards list because you haven't been taught how to date. You don't think to look for the important things in a relationship because all you know is that you should be a good woman. You don't know how the man should be because no one has taught you that. And so you're just basically thinking about how you're going to show up in that connection, how you are going to make sure that you keep that man because he has now chosen you. So you should feel honored and you should feel good about yourself that you were chosen. And so now you are with this man that is really unworthy of you, but you don't see that because you see your worth being tied to just being a woman that was chosen. And so now you feel like it's your duty to just be a good woman. Something that I recall writing multiple times in my book Toxic X Chronicles John, which is like basically about my story as in my first toxic relationship. I remember just constantly saying and thinking to myself that I just want to be a good girlfriend. I just want to be a good woman. And it's crazy because as you're reading it, you're like, you want to be a good woman to this asshole? Yes, I did, because I thought that it was my duty to just be good. And it's like I didn't have any boundaries, any standards, anything. It's just that, okay, we're together. He chose me. Let me make this work. And not to mention we probably seen our own parents in toxic relationships and toxic marriages to where our mom just stayed and put up with it and tolerated it and just basically stuck around for it. And so you feel like you have to stick around for it and that you have to make it work and that it's normal to just be with them and try to like force it to work because you're like, maybe it's just part of the ups and downs. I need to be a good woman. I need to just keep being a good woman. And so you have that good woman trope that it's all on you. And that if you just continue to be good, then maybe he will change or maybe he will treat you better. It's like you're putting all this worth on him just because he likes you. He chose you. There is more worth in a woman that has standards. There is more worth in a woman that is able to decide for herself if she wants the man or not based off if he meets her standards. There is more worth in a woman that uses her right to choose. That means it doesn't matter if that man wants her or is choosing her. If she don't want him, she can determine that she doesn't want him because maybe he doesn't quite meet her standards or maybe he is just unworthy of her. And so I want you to understand that there is more worth in that. Don't be so caught up in being chosen by a man. Don't be so caught up in being wanted and desired. Don't be so caught up in being a good woman. Don't be so focused on trying to keep him pleased. All that is our abandonment wounds showing. Our fear of rejection showing. With our fear of abandonment, we even more so want to make sure that we are being a good woman to make sure that this man continues to want us and choose us. It doesn't matter that he's meeting our standards or he's not even a good guy. Sometimes I think we even forget to look at that because we're so focused on keeping that. But think about it. Why are you working so hard to keep something that is toxic, something that is not good for you, something that is not even meeting your standards, something that you're not even really truly happy with. But yet here you are still trying to keep them pleased and trying to be a good woman to them. And so your fear of being abandoned and rejected will have you subsiding your standards, subsiding your boundaries, all because you're afraid those things are going to push that man away. And the thing is, y'all, is that yes, it's supposed to push the wrong man away. I think we have to change our mindsets around it and realize that not every man is a good man for us. Even the ones that are good, you're gonna come across some men that are good, but just not for you. Some men that are decent, maybe, but just not for you. You have to really think about yourself and think about what you need in your relationship. Not think about how you can be of service to him. You have to think about also what it is that you're going to need and you're going to want in your connection. That's mainly what you focus on in the beginning is, can he meet my needs? Can he meet my standards? Is this someone that I can build a life with? Is this someone that I really want to be with? Don't think so much about being wanted. But once again, that is just our fear of abandonment or our abandonment wounds, just basically wanting us to be with someone, wanting us to connect with someone, wanting love that bad that we are just going to connect to anyone that seems halfway right. And then I feel like if you have that mindset already before you meet a man, like if you have the mindset that you are just in dire need of love, you have a lot of unmet needs, or you feel love depleted, or, you just have this longing feeling to be in a relationship and in connection, which is not a bad thing. It's okay to want romantic love. But here's where it becomes bad. It becomes bad when you have such a strong desire for that you find yourself settling, that you find yourself going for the first man that seems half right, that wants you, because you feel like there is a scarcity of men that are going to want you because of the abandonment wound you have. So when you start off already with this desperate need to be loved, it's already going to end bad because you are not thinking clearly, you're not seeing things clearly, you're just seeing what is going to work for you and what's going to feel good to that abandonment wound that you have. So in understanding that we have abandonment wounds, I think that's first key in uncovering and processing and working through and healing. But sadly, most times we don't realize we have this abandonment wound or we have this love depleted wound because we didn't have the adequate amount of love we needed in our upbringings. We don't realize these things until we get in a connection and until we lose ourselves in a toxic relationship or lose ourselves in just a relationship period, to where we're just basically an afterthought because we're putting his needs up front. And while we're on the subject of putting his needs up front, I also feel like that we pick up this habit from our upbringing as well. Because oftentimes our parents and caregivers may have made us feel like that our needs didn't matter, made us feel like our feelings didn't matter. Or you may have had the parent that always put their feelings up front. And sometimes they do it in a way where it's not even deliberately trying to hurt you or minimize your feelings, but sometimes that's what end up happening. It's like they forget that yes, while we are a child, we still feel things, we still have intuition, we still have our thoughts, we still have our needs, and it's supposed to be us, not our parents' needs being before ours. Like, for example, notice that some parents do that they don't realize is that, say if they have a young child and they are going around like new family members or something like that, your parents are probably aware that the new people you're coming around, they know the family members and they know that they are safe. But as a young child, you don't know that. So you may be apprehensive to go give them a hug or to go say hey to them or go speak to them. And I've noticed parents will be like, go over there, give them a hug. Don't be rude. Or go say hey to your aunt so-and-so. Or go say hey to your uncle so-and-so. Oh, you're going to hurt their feelings. You being rude. Or, go say hey. Don't be like that. I remember hearing that a lot growing up. Like, it was like forced upon us. Instead of me listening to my own intuition as a child and honoring how I felt, like if I was a little nervous about it because, for one, I didn't know them, or whatever reason was, it was still forced upon me, like, you're going to hurt their feelings. It was always parents saying how you're going to hurt someone else's feelings. And it was never about your feelings. And so that's like a small thing, but a very important thing that I notice happens a lot. I've even noticed it in other people that I see with their kids. Like, while it may seem harmless, it's really you telling that child that your feelings and what you want don't really matter. It's more so making sure you don't hurt this adult's feelings. That's an adult and they should be able to handle their own feelings. But you as a child, you don't know how to do that yet. So it's not fair for you to be and have that imposed on you. It wasn't fair. And so once you sit with that, and I feel like once you go back to your childhood and you pick apart the things that happened like that to you, you begin to understand that that wasn't right. And that your feelings should always matter. You should not be abandoning yourself for someone else. And so thus this rounds it back up to what I was saying, that when you get older and you start to date and look for romantic love, you are going to put that man's needs before yours every single time because of the abandonment wound. And not only the abandonment wound from the adults in your life abandoning you, but from them also teaching you to abandon yourself. Teaching you to abandon your needs and your feelings and your emotions and putting others' needs before yours. It's like they taught you that if you don't do that, if you don't consider their needs and what they want, then it's going to leave a negative effect. Like they're not going to want you, or they're not going to like you, and thus creating you feeling abandoned. But something that I want you to understand, like a mindset shift for this that worked for me, it's like you want people like that to abandon you. You want people like that to reject you. You want people like that to not want to be around you. You want men like that to reject you. You want men like that to abandon you. You know, if you speaking up for yourself, if you've been assertive about your needs, if you've been assertive about your wants, if you having boundaries and not crossing your own boundaries affects them in a negative way or makes them not want to be around you and makes them want to leave you, let them go. Because what's going to end up happening is that you are going to abandon yourself for them. And while you are not physically abandoned, because that man will stay with you because you're putting all his needs before yours, that's how we end up in these toxic relationships with narcissists and whatnot. While you're doing that, you are abandoning yourself. But I guess because self-abandonment doesn't really hurt the same as physical abandonment when you have that abandonment wound. But eventually the self-abandonment will weigh heavy on you. And especially upon you finally leaving, when you finally do, you're going to feel that self-abandonment wound even more. All that anger you feel for being in that situation is more so going to be you angered at yourself for not loving yourself more, for abandoning yourself for that man, for tolerating the things that you did. And I want you to use that anger and channel it to never do that to yourself again. I want you to understand that sometimes you have to be the quote unquote bad woman. You have to be the bitch, quote unquote. You have to be the one that is always going to put herself first and prioritize herself. I know we've been told and made to believe that that's wrong and that it should always be others first. But where does that leave you in that? That leaves you abandoning yourself just to please someone else, and that is not fair to you. And it's really not even fair to others. I feel like the only type of people and men that love women that abandon themselves are the selfish type of men that just basically want to use you. They're not going to love you. They're going to love how you love them. And then you're going to find yourself not being treated right because all that matters is that you treat him right. And so you are just constantly abandoning yourself. And I did it all of my 20s, all because I was trying to be a quote unquote good woman, all because I thought that was the way to be. So stop abandoning yourself. I have a healing Sundays episode coming up, which I have every Sunday that comes right after the podcast that I do on my Thursdays, and it's only on YouTube. So I have an episode coming up, Healing Sundays, that's going to be basically talking about the general sense of how we put others' needs before our own and how we overextend ourselves. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that in every aspect, not just in the dating aspect and whatnot. So that will be coming up. So you may want to check that out if you want a little more healing regarding self-abandonment, you know. But back to what I was saying. All in all, you cannot expect men to respect you more than you respect yourself. If you find yourself chronically abandoning yourself for a man, meaning that you are dismissing your feelings, betraying yourself, minimizing your wants, your needs, your feelings, emotions, or even well-being just to please him and just to keep him, or because maybe you're trying to avoid conflict or you're trying to avoid discomfort of standing up for yourself, or maybe you just feel undeserving. If you find yourself doing it, then you're going to find yourself constantly in relationships with men that don't give a damn about you, men that are just going to use you because you haven't taken a stand for yourself. Self-abandonment in dating can look like you ignoring the red flags, meaning that you may spot some things that go against what you want, or you may spot like inconsistencies or things that he's done that are disrespectful. You notice all these things, but you will try to once again be like the quote unquote good woman and be so understanding and try to understand his why. Or you may find yourself saying, well, it's not his fault, it's his childhood, things like that. You find yourself minimizing what you really want and need and just basically highlighting the red flags and dismissing the red flags. Or you may find yourself overgiving to that man. You may find yourself doing too much for him, especially in the beginning, because you're trying to earn your place in his life, and you're not wanting him to abandon you, or you wanted him to like you and to continue to want you. I find that this happens after the love bombing stage, and then they start to kind of like be hot and cold. Then you'll start to overgiving. You may find yourself like being too compassionate with him, or you find yourself like doing all the emotional labor. Doing all the emotional labor can look like you basically faulting yourself in all the disagreements and arguments, like it's something that you did wrong and you need to fix, and it's never him doing anything wrong. And you're doing all this because you're hoping that they will value you more, and you're hoping that he can like see that you're such a good woman, and maybe finally he will change or act right or appreciate you. So you'll find yourself that's also abandoning yourself in that way. You'll also find yourself avoiding conflict, like not bringing things up. I know that I was afraid to call out things and to say how I felt about something. Sometimes I would speak up on it and it would cause an argument, and that would make me not want to speak up on everything. I was afraid to like point out things that I noticed. You may also have what they call outcome attachment. You're attached to the outcome of things and how you would like things to go. You're attached to the potential of how things could go and not how they really are. So your outcome is like to have this happy life with him and for things to change for the better, so you stick around for that. That's self-abandonment as well. Or you'll find yourself minimizing your standards, like telling yourself like maybe I'm asking for too much, or maybe I have too high expectations and whatnot. And then you find yourself minimizing it when you get with someone and you're like, well, maybe it's not that bad, or it's okay for that, or you make an adjustment for it. You find yourself just like you find yourself going for things that you wouldn't really go for, or things that you really don't want to, but you'll minimize it anyway. And it's really all because you are going to abandon yourself so that you won't feel abandoned by them. And something else that I want to touch on as well about self-abandonment is that I had to also realize that self-abandonment is what can cause loneliness. Yes, definitely we do need connection, we do need community, we do need people. There's nothing wrong with that. But you shouldn't abandon yourself while you're waiting for your tribe or waiting for your man or whatnot. I find that when you abandon yourself, it's even lonelier. Even when you are alone, you should not be abandoning yourself. Like, always prioritize what you like, what you want, and what you need as well. And don't neglect your feelings as well. Also, don't minimize your feelings. Stuff like that, I realize it's like you have to like really become one with yourself and everything about you. You can't abandon yourself like period whatsoever, and you have to treat yourself like you matter. Like, I think that's hard to do when we have been abandoned in our childhoods, so it's hard to understand what there is to matter about us. But you must not abandon yourself. Definitely not alone, and definitely not in a relationship, because if you do that with a man that chose you just because he chose you, and you find him so worth it just because he wants you, And so you're not looking at all the other list of things that you need in a connection. It's going to be lonely even while you're with them. And it's going to be a lot of resentment as well. And so you have to get to the point of understanding that he won't be the last man to want you. You have to understand also that he won't be your last chance at trying love. He won't be your last chance at love, period. That there will be others. I think the abandonment wound we have sometimes makes us have this scarcity mindset to where we believe that it's a scarce amount of men that are going to want us, and that it's like puts you in this like fear that you can't be alone, you can't be by yourself. So you're going to try to make sure that, if someone comes along and chooses you, that you can bend a little just to have them in your life for whatever reason. And you just have to stop doing that. And you have to not only become one with yourself, because that's important while you wait, because it can get very lonely and you can slip up and end up settling, and you don't want that because it's just going to be even more heartbreaking in that connection. You have to just get one with yourself and be okay with that while you wait, so that you're not feeling like you have to settle. It's not a scarcity of people that are going to want you. It's not going to be every man, true, but you have to believe that you don't have to settle to be loved. You don't have to earn love. You don't have to minimize what you need. You don't have to abandon yourself to be loved. You have to get that through your head and understand and realize that. And then once you realize that, you'll stop settling. And yeah, it may become a little more challenging because you're finding yourself, taking a little bit longer to actually be connected with someone. But would you rather have that, or be connected with someone that doesn't see you, doesn't value you, disrespects you, and someone that you have to minimize your needs and your emotions and your feelings for, to where you're in this connection and you're unhappy? So you choose. But that's all I got for this podcast episode, girlfriends. As always, you can check me out at I'veBeenThatGirl.net or my Instagram page, I'veBeenThatGirl too. I'm on TikTok as well. You can look under Kendall D as well on other social media pages. And if you want to check out my book where I was talking about, my first toxic relationship that I detail, it's Toxic Ex Chronicles John, and it's available on Amazon. It's rated 5 stars. And yes, I am writing the second book. It's another book in that series. And you can check that out at I'veBeenThatGirl.net or just go on Amazon. There's also an ebook for $10 that you can check out as well. And I also do coaching, one-on-one mindset and intuitive coaching as well. That can be found all at I'veBeenThatGirl.net. So that's all I got for this podcast episode. Once again, girlfriends, peace out. Until the next one.